Hello and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we are going to talk about the Hampton City School System and recent announcements in terms of graduation rates, school accreditation, some really impressive statistics. So we're going to tell you how that happened. I'm not, but my guests are. It's Superintendent Jeffery Smith, welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And Dr. John Caggiano, welcome. You are Deputy Superintendent.
Yes, good morning. Pleasure to be here with you.
It's so nice because I have heard you speak, and when you talked to City Council and sort of went in depth, I thought, you know, some people watch these meetings on TV, but we could explain to them a little bit more how this happened. It hasn't been a one-year turnaround. It has been a very steady improvement, really.
It has, and we have been on the road toward continuous improvement, certainly, from building from places of strength. And so in 2015, 41% of our schools were fully accredited. The following year, 55%, and then 66%, and then 93% of our schools last year were accredited without conditions. And we're so happy and proud, certainly, to announce and share that 100% of our schools now are accredited without conditions. But a lot of hard work, and we're focusing on each student. And so behind the numbers, it's so important to realize that there are names and faces behind the numbers. In the last 4 years, we have revised 200 curricula. We've been able to define.
What does that mean? So like somebody who hasn't been in school for a very long time, 200 curricula means what, 6th grade English is one or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
that's a lot.
Absolutely. And focusing on what students should know, understand, and be able to do at a deeper level rather than just memorization. We have moved beyond that. And I know Dr. Caggiano could certainly talk about how we have moved beyond just the memorization.
Let's talk about that, because sometimes school systems that have made gains in test scores or accreditation have done it very much by teaching to the test, or very much by saying, okay, you kids at the upper level, you're going to do fine. We're not going to focus on you. There's some kids at the bottom who are never going to make it. We're not going to focus on them. We're just going to get enough people to pass the test to make the numbers we need to make. You guys don't do it that way.
We don't. We have a systems approach where we have a guaranteed viable curriculum throughout the division and a tiered system. So at Tier 1, all young people, we want to have access to Tier 1 instruction. And then we provide supports around the teaching and learning at Tiers 2 and 3 based upon the needs of individual students. But it's truly about each individual student, and we've moved beyond just the fact of memorization and facts. And Dr.
How did you do that? You worked with the groups that rewrote some of these curricula. How do you get the SOLs are so extreme and fact-based, and
right.
a lot of people stop there. And what they're supposed to be doing is telling a bigger story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the unintended consequences for many divisions in this era of testing has been the state puts out what are called curriculum framework documents, which are minimum expectations for each course, each grade level. And often, many times, divisions will take those documents and really put their name on them and hand that out as curriculum. And I would liken it to you go in the closet in the morning to get dressed, and I say, I know I need a tie, I know I need a shirt, I know I need a suit, but I find a way to weave them together to make it look presentable. And it's the same thing with our curriculum. We have to have students to help make connections between language arts and mathematics. So what we did was we took the state's framework as a framework, but we've built and made a curriculum that is, when you look at K-12 and really pre-K-12, the opportunities for students to make connections. What we're hearing from our employers and members of the business community is that we want students not to just be able to Google things, but who can think creatively, critical thinking, problem solving, and communication.
And that, I hear that too, and I of course feel that when I hire people, because we don't know what the duties of the jobs will be in 5 years, much less 20 years. So teaching people to understand, to learn, and to think creatively is huge.
It is, and we're so proud to have in Hampton, through the academies of Hampton, industry leaders at the table helping to shape and to design those authentic experiences that young people need to have in order to be successful. And so it's more than just, as Dr. Caggiano said, the mere facts. But at the end of the day, we want young people to be prepared for life and the careers that are out there. So we do have business leaders and members of the community, civic and otherwise, at the table helping us to shape and to design those authentic learning experiences, to say that when you walk across that stage, young people should know, understand, and be able to do the following. And as he said, to think in a very critical way, to work as a member of a team. All of that's very important. And so we're proud to have that as a part of the experience in our schools.
I have heard from a lot of people that this whole academy transition is confusing to parents and grandparents who didn't go to school like that, or that we're somehow forcing our students to lock into a permanent career in the 9th or 10th grade. Explain what it is and why the pathways exist.
You know, pathways exist because we really want young people to learn through the lens of work-based and careers, and to bring about relevance in the classroom. So think of it in terms of relevance-based teaching and learning, where at some particular point we want all young people to have a job and a career. And so when you think of the academies, think of certainly smaller learning communities. And we recognize that young people very well, and they may change their minds, and that's okay to do that. But it's better to know what you like and what you really have an interest in while you're with us, rather than when you leave and then change multiple times when you're in post-secondary studies. But I think what's most important, that we focus on stackable credentials, transferable skills and knowledge. So regardless as to the path of interest in high school, you can transfer that knowledge and those skills to other areas as well. And so young people focus on that. In 9th grade, they spend a lot of time learning about self, strengths and opportunities. And then in 10th grade, they really select an academy and a pathway, and certainly at the end of that 10th grade year, have an opportunity, if they desire, to change, to make a change.
And it's interesting because, back in the dark ages, when I went to school, you were tracked in high school. You were college bound or vocational bound, or you were just kind of hanging out. But you didn't get a chance to attract those people who didn't know what they wanted, who didn't know where they were going. And you weren't, people who were in a more vocational track may not have had the opportunity to go to college, whereas you're good with your hands might mean mechanics, but it also might mean engineering. And there wasn't, those possibilities just weren't open to everybody. Well, or they were, but they didn't know it. The students probably didn't feel like they had a lot of options.
Well, there are a lot of options with us because certainly we have 16 career academies, and we have 41 pathways, and so there are a lot of options for young people to choose from, and we're most proud of those options for all young people and those opportunities that you can explore and really take a deeper dive as it relates to the teaching and learning in Hampton. And also, you have the opportunity for an internship and challenge-based learning. So all of that's so important. So the times have changed, and we feel like we're on the cutting edge and getting a lot of recognition around that important work on behalf of young people.
That is so interesting, because you will hear people in my generation continue to say, I don't know why I had to take algebra, or I don't know why I had to take literature, or whatever they ended up doing. And so doing those things through the lens of something practical, wow.
Absolutely.
And I would add, when you look back, I would say back in the day, the school divisions really in our country, back in silos, really drove the curriculum and courses. And this, as Dr. Smith mentioned, really business and civic engagement. So when you look at the research behind why we have certain pathways, we're looking at high demand, high wage jobs. And so not in isolation, the school division coming together, it's working with members of the business community, for example, to say, we recommend that you have pathways, multiple pathways for this particular career field. So that has been very exciting and motivating to our students. And some students, as Dr. Smith would say, we've heard in conversations where now I know I don't want to go this route,
Absolutely.
and I'm saving my parents a lot of money, and I plan to go to college for this. Or, as he also said in reference to stackable skills or credentials or transferable skills, I now have these skill sets no matter which career field. For example, the communication, the problem solving,
Right.
where I can take that and be successful.
It makes a huge difference. And that it's not just tracked, I want to go to medical school, it is the medical field. So you
Right.
learn other possibilities, and you're working with, people who want to be certified nursing assistants or something, and they can come out of school with pretty much that credential or higher. And people, it's just the whole breadth of possibilities.
Yes, well, and as you just mentioned, when you think of the medical field, you think of surgical technology, you think of the area of radiology, and preparing young people for those certifications. And so, certainly, and I think, certainly what Dr. Caggiano said, high demand, high wage. So, we actually examine the data in terms of our region, Hampton and the region, and decided what career pathways, as he indicated, that we should offer, as well as the academies based upon high demand, high wage opportunities for young people.
And let's tell people that doesn't necessarily mean doctor or lawyer. There are lots of high-wage jobs
Absolutely.
out there. There are some mechanics who make way more than I make. There are a lot of
Welders.
possibilities.
Welders,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, and with the shipyard gearing up to make so many more ships, that's going to be huge locally.
It will. I was absent at Hampton High School not long ago and had an opportunity to visit the Maritime Academy. And a young lady said, I thought I was interested in becoming a physician, and said, well, let me go into the welding with the Maritime Academy. And she said, I think I have found my passion and my love. And oh, by the way, I can potentially make $75,000 to $90,000, and the skills that are required in terms of the technical piece of it. She said there are a lot of similarities here, and so she's quite interested in that, and so she may start and then later on decide that she wants to go into the medical field.
That's so exciting. Well, let's focus then on the high schools, because part of the story isn't just 100% accreditation, and I know I'm supposed to say without conditions, but it is the graduation rates.
It is. We're really proud. In 2015, 88% of our young people graduated on time, and we're now at a place where 92.73% of the class of 2019 graduated on time. But I think, again, you hear that number, it's so important to recognize that when we think of our young people with disabilities, when we think of English language learners, when we think of young people who have been impacted by poverty, we exceed the state average in terms of the class of 2019 relative to all young people graduating on time. And so that's a very proud celebration for us as well. We're preparing all young people, and that's pretty significant. I'd encourage individuals to go to our website and look at that on-time graduation report and release, because we really outline when we think of 92.73% of our young people graduating on time in terms of the class of 2019, but then when you look at the details of that, you get a chance to see all of our young people are moving forward, and we're moving that needle forward for all youngsters.
Well, and again, some school systems focus on that overall number. Get the overall number high enough, that's what people look at when they're looking for where to live and how their children are going to be educated. But you have to look at the layers. Sometimes that overall number means there's a huge gap in terms of race or income or English speakers, and some places can ignore those students and still get that big number. Your motto is every child, every day, right?
It is. It's every child, every day, whatever it takes. And we're so proud of the work around on-time graduation with our grad specialists, our guidance counselors, our administrators, all working in collaboration with classroom teachers. We offer afternoon, evening programs, as well as Saturday programs for young people around credit recovery. And so it's important to hold all young people to high academic standards and to have high expectations, and then to really provide what I consider to be the appropriate supports along the way.
Now, I'm always encouraged by my friends in the school system to report both the graduation rate and the dropout rate. And they're not exactly the opposite of each other. They mean different things. So your dropout rate is tiny now, right?
It is. So our dropout rate is 1.26%. And in essence, when you look at the dropout rate, there are some factors that are included in there. For example, we get credit in terms of young people who may decide to take another path versus, let's say, graduating in terms of the high school experience and staying with us in terms of whether it's the general diploma. Some young people decide that they want to take the path of the GED. And so the state gives us certainly some weight in terms of young people who choose to take another path, but who earn also that credential and that particular diploma. So yes, when you look at the dropout rate and you look at the graduation rate, and you look at those particular numbers, we get credit on the dropout rate side that we may not get on the on-time graduation side of the ledger.
Now,
other degree tracks.
I'm not an expert at this, but it seems to me that that also says students are staying with you because they feel like it's working for them, or they feel like it's in their best interest, or they don't hate school anymore. That's a really big accomplishment.
It is, and I think it's, you look at it, it's about relationships. And it's important that we have what I consider to be those appropriate relationships where we say to young people that we're not going to give up on you, and we're not going to allow you to give up on yourself. And so, I have often said that young people do not care how much we know until they know how much we care. And so, indeed, it is about each individual student and setting young people up for success and maintaining high expectations for our young people and getting the support of our families.
And we have a goal this year. One of our goals is a 95% on-time graduation rate. And when you look at, sometimes folks in the community will say, well, we heard you had these pocket academies, and now you're at these wall-to-wall academies, where the difference is pocket, obviously 1 or 2 small learning communities in a high school, and then wall-to-wall every student. And so when you look at the success of the students who were in those pocket academies, one of the things was attendance and relationships, and so again, small learning communities. So again, the rationale for, if it's good for a small group of students, why not for every student in Hampton City Schools?
And that, it's just a revolution really in what I'm going to call the education industry. It's not an industry, but we've all been through those huge changes in, my old field was media. And everything has revolutionized. And if you don't revolutionize the preparation for those things, then you're missing the mark.
You're absolutely right. And schools are very different, and we need to make certain that we're addressing the needs of young people and the needs within the workforce in a very different way. And so, again, providing context for what we do and why we do what we do.
Now, I'm also not supposed to talk about this because it's not always what you guys want to say, but Hampton has a more disadvantaged population than some of our suburban neighbors. And not that they're not as smart, but if my kid goes to school not hungry and I'm home to do the homework and, I have a certain expectations, and someone else's kid goes home and doesn't have enough to eat, and parents are working 2 jobs, and, all those kinds of things, you are really moving the needle on everybody, the economically disadvantaged and the bright kids. I mean, you're still getting your Vals and Sals, all are accepted to at least major universities, Ivy Leagues. I mean, that's a big balance.
Well, let me just share with you, I firmly believe that we have a responsibility to set all young people up for success. And all of our young people come to us with such great potential. And we have a responsibility to ensure that we provide all of our young people with the appropriate resources to set them up for ultimate success. And so they do. They walk in the doors with great potential. And as educators, we have that responsibility to make certain that we really challenge all of our young people and move them along that continuum so that at the end of the day, they leave us, all young people, college, career, and life ready. And then you decide what path you want to take, but we have the responsibility to set you up for success for college and to have a successful career and to be successful in life.
All right, let me see if you can give me your 1 minute, I know 1 minute's hard for you, elevator speech on why someone should live in Hampton and send their children to Hampton City Schools.
Well, let's start with Dr. Caggiano. He can probably give you 1 minute.
I would say when you think about what we said earlier about the mission, Hampton City Schools, every child, every day, whatever it takes, and that's in collaboration with the community. The commitment of staff here is like none other, unbelievable. And when you look at some of the systems in place, whether it's curriculum or data systems, it really is about meeting every child's needs. So Dr. Smith can sit in his office right now, he can stroke a keyboard and say, your particular child is in kindergarten, he can tell you whether or not your child knows his or her letter sounds or letters at this stage of the game. And so that level from a superintendent having that kind of access, and then executive directors working with building principals working with teachers. And so the thinking, and folks often ask, so how did you get to 100% when divisions a lot who look like you aren't near that? And it really is the focus on every child. And I think whether it's pre-K opportunity or elementary school sitting at a table with a teacher 5 days a week in a small group setting with reading, because that's the expectation. That's what we know research says is good for kids. I'm almost at it in a minute. And then moving up to high school and looking at the exposure to the academies and the pathways, and regardless of which track, if I don't have money for college, I can get a certification, come out of high school making $45,000, pay for my college. If I want to go right to college, I signed off on a field trip the other day. We've got a busload of students going to Virginia Tech. Some of them will be offered admission on the spot. So just so many opportunities. And it starts from the top with school board and city council and Dr. Smith, the servant leadership that we are here to meet your child's needs.
And you mentioned the cost of college. One thing we haven't talked about is, there's so many things to talk about, but the dual enrollment, that students can graduate from Thomas Nelson Community College with an associate's degree before, because their semester ends earlier.
That's right.
They finish their high school career.
They can.
That is a huge financial benefit for families.
And just think of the fact that you can leave us and have 2 years in terms of that associate's degree, and then move forward and potentially only have 2 years remaining in terms of a 4-year study. So with my 1 minute, I agree with everything that Dr. Caggiano said. I'm not sure that there's anything else that I can add.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more pitch then.
Yeah.
Why should a business owner or leader choose Hampton to locate or expand their business?
It's really because we have an excellent partnership with the business community, and we're working with business leaders at the table to shape the curriculum. We're preparing young people for the jobs of the future, and if you're looking for an outstanding workforce, young people who are prepared for the future with the skills and the credentials, this is the place you would want to come and relocate to.
All right. Thank you both very much. Is there anything else that I have forgotten to ask or that you want to add before we close?
No, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. I hope you have a better understanding of what is going on behind the numbers and why the numbers matter, and that you understand that Hampton City Schools is the best place for students of all abilities to stick with education, to enjoy education, and to be thinking about where high school leads, what happens afterward. Thanks for watching.